What if I told you that in the 1960s, the US government secretly planned to fake terrorist attacks on its own people? Imagine passenger planes blown out of the sky, bombs ripping through American cities, even refugees killed at sea, all staged, all blamed on Cuba. This isn't a movie script. This was a real plan, written down and approved by America's top generals. Its name? Operation Northwoods. Tonight, we're going to peel back the curtain on one of the darkest proposals in modern history, a plan so shocking that even President John F. Kennedy refused to go along with it. But before we dive into this disturbing story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more hidden truths and chilling conspiracy theories from history. To understand why Operation Northwoods was even imagined, we need to step back into the early 1960s. A world gripped by fear, paranoia, and the shadow of nuclear war. The Cold War wasn't just politics, it was survival. Two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a deadly chess match, each move bringing humanity closer to the edge of annihilation. And then, right off the coast of Florida, just 90 miles away, a new player appeared on the board: Cuba. In 1959, Fidel Castro and his revolutionaries seized power, overthrowing the US-backed dictator Fulgencio Batista. At first, some Americans even admired Castro, a young, charismatic rebel. But that admiration turned to fear when he aligned himself with Moscow. Suddenly, communism wasn't an abstract threat on the other side of the globe. It was right at America's doorstep. The US tried to strike back. In 1961, the CIA launched the infamous Bay of Pigs invasion, a secret plan to overthrow Castro using Cuban exiles. But it failed, spectacularly. Instead of toppling Castro, it humiliated the United States and emboldened him. Washington was desperate. Castro had survived. Cuba had become a fortress of Soviet influence, and America's most powerful generals wanted revenge. Out of this burning frustration, a shocking idea was born, a plan so extreme, so ruthless, that it would one day be known as Operation Northwoods. Behind closed doors at the Pentagon, America's top generals gathered. Their mission? Find a way to finish what the Bay of Pigs had failed to do. Remove Fidel Castro from power once and for all. At the head of the table sat General Lyman Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Alongside him, the most powerful military minds in the United States, men entrusted with defending the nation. But what they drafted in secret was not a defense plan. It was an offense against truth itself. They called it Operation Northwoods. The proposal was chillingly simple. If the US couldn't justify a war with Cuba, they would manufacture the justification. The world didn't need to know the truth. The world just needed a story, one that painted Cuba as the aggressor and America as the victim. Their logic was cold and calculated. Americans would never rally behind another risky invasion after the Bay of Pigs disaster, unless, of course, they were outraged. Unless they believed that Cuba had attacked them first. And so, in the spring of 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff signed their names to one of the most disturbing proposals in US history. Operation Northwoods wasn't just about defeating Castro, it was about manipulating reality itself, creating terror, then blaming it on an enemy. What exactly did America's top generals plan to do? The documents are crystal clear and terrifying. Operation Northwoods laid out a blueprint for deception on a massive scale. A series of staged attacks designed to create chaos, fear, and outrage. The plan suggested a campaign of terror right here at home. Bombings in US cities. Carefully orchestrated acts of violence that would leave Americans shocked and grieving. Then, evidence would be planted. Proof that Cuba was behind it. The public, horrified and enraged, would demand retaliation. One of the most chilling proposals involved passenger planes. The idea? Swap out a civilian airliner for a drone aircraft. The real passengers would disappear, secretly landed at a military base. Meanwhile, the unmanned plane would be destroyed in midair. To the world, it would look like Cuba had shot down an innocent civilian aircraft. The headlines would scream. The outrage would be unstoppable. Another suggestion: target the most vulnerable. Boats filled with Cuban refugees fleeing Castro's regime could be sunk, their deaths blamed on Cuban forces. Imagine the fury in America. Families torn apart, innocent lives lost, all attributed to a brutal dictator. The generals even considered staging assaults on their own military bases. Guantanamo Bay, the U.S. stronghold in Cuba, could be bombed or attacked. American soldiers could be sacrificed or falsely reported dead. The world would see Cuba as reckless, bloodthirsty, and dangerous. Every staged event would be backed by a carefully crafted narrative. Fake evidence, planted witnesses, headlines designed to stir rage and fear. The media would amplify the deception, shaping public opinion exactly as the planners intended. Think about it. These weren't the ideas of fringe extremists. These were official proposals from the highest levels of the U.S. military. Men sworn to protect the nation, plotting to deceive it. Operation Northwoods was not just a plan for war, it was a plan to weaponize truth itself. The proposal was finished. Operation Northwoods had been typed, polished, and signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The nation's top generals were ready. All they needed now was the president's approval. The document landed on the desk of Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and from there it was brought before President John F. Kennedy. But Kennedy was not impressed. He was horrified. Kennedy had already grown suspicious of the military establishment after the Bay of Pigs disaster. He knew the Pentagon was hungry for war, desperate to topple Castro at any cost. But what lay before him in Operation Northwoods went far beyond strategy. It was a betrayal of the very people the president had sworn to protect. The generals expected Kennedy to see their plan as bold, decisive, even brilliant. Instead, he flatly rejected it. Operation Northwoods would never be carried out. The fallout was immediate. Kennedy's distrust of his military advisors deepened. Within months, General Lyman Lemnitzer, the man who had signed the proposal, was quietly removed from his position as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Operation Northwoods was shoved into the shadows, locked away as if it had never existed. But secrets have a way of resurfacing, and decades later, this dark plan would finally come to light. For more than 3 decades, Operation Northwoods was buried deep in government archives, a ghost locked away in classified files, whispered about only by the few who knew it existed. Then, in the 1990s, the truth slipped out. As part of the investigation into President Kennedy's assassination, the Assassination Records Review Board began combing through millions of pages of government documents. Hidden among them was something no one expected: a proposal stamped top secret, signed by America's most powerful generals. In 1997, journalists and historians got their first look at Operation Northwoods. The reaction was explosive. Headlines screamed, "Pentagon proposed pretext for war." Readers were stunned. The idea that the U.S. military had once plotted to stage attacks against its own citizens sounded like the stuff of wild conspiracy theories. And yet, here it was, black and white, undeniable. The documents revealed every disturbing detail: the fake hijackings, the bombings, the staged deaths, all of it written, planned, and waiting, until Kennedy had said no. To some, it was proof that democracy had worked. A civilian president had stopped a reckless military plan. To others, it was proof of something darker, that even the most trusted institutions were capable of betrayal if the stakes were high enough. Operation Northwoods was no longer a secret, it was history. And once revealed, it would forever shape the way people looked at government, war, and truth itself. When Operation Northwoods was revealed, one question echoed louder than all the others. How could this even be considered? The proposal shook the foundations of trust. If the most powerful military in the world could plan to deceive its own people, what else might be hidden behind closed doors? False flag operations were not new. Nations had long disguised their actions to spark wars. A staged attack here, a fabricated story there. History is littered with examples where lies lit the fuse of conflict. But Operation Northwoods was different. This wasn't about deceiving a rival power. This was about deceiving the American people themselves. The generals saw their plan as strategy, ends justifying means. In their view, a few staged deaths, a few faked tragedies, were nothing compared to the greater goal: defeating communism. But democracy is built on trust, between leaders and the people they serve. To weaponize that trust, to turn it into a tool of manipulation, crosses a line that, once broken, can never be repaired. Operation Northwoods also exposed the dangerous tension between civilian authority and military ambition. The generals were ready to risk America's integrity for a war, but Kennedy said no. In that moment, the balance of power helped. Civilian leadership prevailed. Yet the fact that such a plan had even reached the president's desk was a chilling reminder. Democracy is only as strong as the leaders willing to defend it. Operation Northwoods forces us to confront a disturbing truth. In the fog of fear and war, even the most trusted institutions can justify the unthinkable. And if Kennedy hadn't rejected it, history might have been written in lies. When Operation Northwoods was declassified, it didn't just shock historians and it electrified the world of conspiracy theories. For those who already doubted the honesty of governments, this was the smoking gun. Proof in black and white that officials at the highest levels of power had not only imagined deceiving the public, but had carefully written out how they would do it. From that day on, Northwoods became a cornerstone of conspiracy thinking. Whenever tragedy struck, whether it was a hijacking, a bombing, or a sudden war, skeptics pointed back to Northwoods. See, they said, if they planned it once, what's stopping them from doing it again? But here is where the story often twists. Operation Northwoods was proposed, but it was never approved. The plan died in Kennedy's office, never carried out. And yet, in the murky world of suspicion, that detail often gets blurred. To some, the fact that it was even considered is enough to assume that other false flags must have followed. Northwoods left a scar. It showed the world that democracy is not immune to deception, that even in free nations, truth can be treated like a weapon. For millions, the revelation changed how they see official narratives. From Vietnam to 9/11, from foreign wars to domestic crises, Northwoods hangs like a ghost, proof that sometimes the unthinkable is not just possible, but was once planned. Operation Northwoods has become more than history. It has become a symbol of secrecy, of betrayal, and of the fragile line between protection and manipulation. Operation Northwoods was never carried out, but the fact that it was written, approved by generals, and placed on the president's desk is enough to haunt history. It reminds us that power, when unchecked, can turn against the very people it's meant to protect. It's a chilling glimpse into a world where truth can be manufactured, where wars can be built on lies, and where trust can be shattered with the stroke of a pen. So the question remains, if this was possible in 1962, what else has been hidden in the shadows? Thank you for watching. If you found this story as shocking as we did, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel. And remember, most of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. So if you want more deep dives into history's darkest secrets and most disturbing conspiracy theories, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because the next story might be even more unsettling than this one.